Has my constant search for the most obnoxious, offensive fragrance on the market come to an end? Let's find out in this first impression. Hello, welcome back to Xerjoff Gao. I'm Daniel. Today we're talking fragrances and I'll be giving my first impression about Nishane Afrika Olifant and Xerjoff Gao. In this video series, I'll be comparing and giving my first impressions on two fragrances I have little to no experience with, usually in sample form. The goal for these videos is not to find which fragrance is the best one between the two. This is not a fragrance battle. It's all about opening the conversation on a specific topic. As I mentioned in my intro, my endless search for the most offensive, pungent, obnoxious, and weird fragrance has led me down to a deep rabbit hole. This deep rabbit hole ultimately has brought me to these two fragrances. On one side we have Nishane Afrika Olifant, and on the other one we have Xerjoff Gao. Why did I choose these two fragrances? So first of all, I have zero experience with both of them. The reason why I chose these two was because I was ultimately interested in buying something very particular, something very different. And I read reviews about both of them. These are two houses that I generally like, or rather, in the case of Xerjoff, you might know that I would like to like, and I'm trying to find the one fragrance from the house that will change my mind. And Nishane is a brand that I just generally like. I think they're fun and I think they offer interesting products. Nishane Afrika Olifant, as the name implies, African elephant, is a particular fragrance. On the fragrance reviews website, such as Fragrantica and Parfumo, you can really tell straight up from the notes that this might be a very strong animal. And the notes are in here very animalic. Basically it has like all the animalics in here. It has like civet, it has castoreum, it has like two types of civet actually, and whatnot. It has leather, it has oud, it has ambergris, it has them all, literally. I'm really curious to see how wearable this is and maybe figure out like in which situations one could wear this, if any. I mean, some fragrances are just like art pieces and some fragrances are just like statements from the house. Nishane, I think that they, similar to Xerjoff, they have the aim to be somewhat pleasing in a way. I have a few fragrances from them which are difficult but still very interesting. Something like Sultan Vetiver is it's very strong and very unusual. I wouldn't say it's super wearable, but in the end there's something about it that makes it kind of appealing, kind of interesting. They're not like downright offensive. On the other hand, we have Xerjoff Gao. So from all the Oud Stars line, why did I choose this one specifically? I guess I was attracted by the notes. This one here is like oud heavy, but not very animalic. I think there should be a very strong oud component. I'm expecting a lot of woods. There might be various types of oud in here. There is some balsamic notes. There's some resins, something like that. So I'm not really sure what to expect from this. I'm hoping that I would get some fruity oud of some sort, or just some different oud. I don't know. Xerjoff has many from the Oud Stars line, and I'm not really sure. I can't try them all. It's very difficult to find samples of those specifically. So I don't know. I just picked the one that interests me, the one that is one of the least appreciated, I guess, compared to the usual like Sandia 2, etc. And we'll see where this one goes. One of Xerjoff's issue is that they have a lot of fragrances and that it's really difficult to understand between the single collections or lines how fragrances differ from each other. Like the Oud Stars, there's like 20 fragrances. Like how many types of oud are there? Are they truly all that different between each other? I mean, I'm not really sure. But again, today it's Xerjoff Gao compared to Nishane Afrika Olifant. As I said, I have zero experiences with these. I expect Nishane to be very strong as per the other fragrances in the house, and Xerjoff to be somewhat underwhelming in terms of like offensiveness and pungency. But we'll see. Let's start out with the Xerjoff. This is a 5 ml decant. I'll be giving myself 2 spritz of this on my left arm, and we'll see where that goes. So, all right. Okay. Very strong. I was totally not expecting this. I think this is a fragrance that Definitely does not warrant a close-up first impression smell. Tell you straight up, it's from the wafts I'm getting from the initial sillage of my arm. Very, very balsamic. Smells like burnt rubber. It's that kind of oud. I wasn't expecting this at all. Wow, okay. This is way more challenging than I was expecting from Xerjoff. I mean, congrats to Xerjoff for having something like this in the line. It's super, super strong. It's very, very pungent. Pungent in a way that is almost burning my nostrils. Pungent. Yes, you should not be sniffing it this close. And these fragrances, usually with oud or strong animalics, they work better in a dry down. So my intent for the dry down for this is to give it like a couple hours and see. But really, I have to check the Nishane one also. But overall, this is very, very strong. So I get a strong smokiness, like a burnt rubber again, like someone doing a burnout on asphalt. And there's a very strong element of like balsamics. So there's like something that's like gives me Vicks VapoRub vibes. It might be something like Cypriol. It might be like, I don't know, some sort of a very balsamic resin. It kind of smells like, yeah, like some tree bark, that like eucalyptus or something like that. It's like really, really strong. So it's like, imagine it as like pungent in a way that burnt rubber, like the smoke is almost like choking. It almost gets you to cough and almost burns your nostrils, mixed with Vicks VapoRub. It's definitely an acquired taste. Tell you right off the bat, not my favorite type of opening. It's very, very aggressive and rough. I would say it's super, super rough, like far, far from being smooth. Yeah, very, very pungent. Holy crap. Oh my God. All right. That's Xerjoff Gao. That was a surprise, let me tell you. I was not expecting that at all. On to the Nishane. So the Nishane, I'm expecting it actually to be stronger for some reason. And due to the name and due to this massive amount of animalics, I'm expecting something very barnyardy, something very fecal. We'll see. Let's give it 2 sprays. Good sprayers on these decants, by the way. Wow. Okay, this is completely different. So completely different type of challenging fragrances. This is exactly what I was hoping for in this video. So on one side, I was expecting more woodiness, but no. On one side, we have this super burnt rubber feeling, and on this side, we have probably the most fecal barnyard smell I've ever come across yet. And it reminds me of like a horse stable, some sort of an animal stable with like damp hay. It kind of gives me the King Blue vibes, but way stronger. It's smooth though. It's smooth. It's not as it's not pungent. The opening is very difficult on this one. I think the opening is very difficult on both. I would not, again, I have a high tolerance for this stuff, but I would not go out in public with either of these openings. On one side, the Nishane, you have an opening which truly pictures, to me, truly pictures some animals, like farm animals. Yeah, I don't get any like Africa vibes, but definitely like farm animals. It is very smooth though. Again, like I have to give props to Nishane. It's like this wave of warm animal fur and kind of like a manure, field, agriculture vibes. I live in a place where there's a lot of animal farms and a lot of cows and a lot of manure spreading. And in spring, they really like to dispose of that manure accumulated in the winter. And this kind of gives me that kind of vibe. It's not as pungent because probably the manure that they spread has a lot of like urine. This doesn't have much urine in it. This is more like kind of like just poop, hay, warm animal breath. I don't know. Really smooth. Kind of like it, but definitely not a great opening to show up in public. I mean, you're not going to smell good per se. Oh my God, this is so strong. This is so strong. The Xerjoff is really aggressive, really pungent. I think that maybe from a little bit further, you get this, for sure there's a lot of balsamic coming in, but I can't get away from this like almost chokingly piercing, smoky rubber. I just, it's so difficult. I can't really picture anyone being into this thing because it's so aggressive. Maybe this really needs to dry down. Yeah, I mean, completely different. So I'm very happy. I'm very happy of what came out of this because I was completely blind. I was expecting the complete reverse. I mean, I was expecting the Nishane to be incredibly difficult to smell and super strong, but actually, I'm being obliterated by Xerjoff here. I'm being obliterated. It's the only thing I smell in this like scent bubble around me. And I truly was not expecting something so difficult to wear from Xerjoff. Xerjoff has kind of like disappointed me in that aspect recently. But this one here, my God, this one here is like really weird. Really weird. Wow, congrats. I mean, it shows that I'm definitely going to go deeper in this house here, definitely. These are two fragrances that are very specific. Very specific, difficult, and very niche. I can't think of anyone with a more commercial approach sampling these and being like, yeah, this is going to be my signature scent. It doesn't happen. So why do fragrances like this exist? So I do think that these are like statement pieces for these respective houses, and they just show what the house is capable of and kind of like define the outer perimeter of their fragrance, let's say, space. I don't really think that Xerjoff, when they came out with Gao, they expected it to sell much, truly. I mean, I really would be curious to talk to the perfumer or the creative director for this and be like who is this for? Like, did you do some marketing research, or like what's the process that went into this? Nishane, on the other hand, they're like divided into they serve two purposes. They have a group of fragrances that is very mass appealing and very simplistic. You get your Ani, you get your Asivat, you get your Wulong Cha. Those are all very mass appealing. They still have like a niche edge to them, but more in a like high quality sense, very powerful sense. Nothing too surprising like ingredient or note wise, really. Then they have this other like branch that really goes into a more difficult and unique approach. All in all, don't worry, we're not going to just cover animalic and funky scents here. I know also in the previous first impressions I kind of highlighted the different and animalic approach between Latent Exclusive and King Blue, but I also have lined up for first impressions a lot of stuff like English fragrances, French fragrances, fresh fragrances like summer marine fragrances and stuff like that. So we'll see. That being said, given the nature of these fragrances, my dry down timeline is probably going to be extended. I was thinking originally like an hour and a half, but I'll probably give it something like 3 because this is strong stuff, to be honest. Okay, we're back. So it's been about 2.5 hours. The fragrances have changed a lot. or rather, the edginess of the fragrances have toned down a lot. I think they're both way more approachable. So the Xerjoff now has lost a lot of its edge, a lot of its pungency, but it still retains that balsamic nature. The smokiness from the burnouts, from the burnt tire, has mild substantially. You can still pick it up, but it's a lot more woody now. I would say it's much more of a woody tone. It feels more like a tree bark, in the sense that the balsamicness of it, that the balsamic resin of it really comes through, and it meshes with that wood, and it smells like you have your nose up to like some sort of a very resinous, sticky tree bark. Yeah, so very balsamic still. I can't really think how someone would find this necessarily appealing still. Really reminds me of this, Lude from Andy Tower. This one here, I think it's a much better version of Gao. It has the same vibe. It has the same balsamic kind of burnt rubber tire thing, but it's way smoother. This is, despite it being, I think it's stronger. I didn't wear it because it was like just too much. I think it's smoother, and I think it dries down better. It transitions more. It's not warm at all. It's not warm. It's not fresh either. It's not a fresh sense. It's not a fresh oud. The balsamic nature is it's playing tricks with my mind, because it's kind of giving me like these fresh vibes in my nose, but the scent is really, really heavy. So I can't see this be worn in summer. This would kill someone in summer. I strongly do not recommend it. Interesting, again, I'm really surprised that Xerjoff put something like this out. And despite this not being my thing at all, I also, because I have the Andy Tower one, which is very similar and there is a degree of redundancy, I have hopes for the brand. I mean, I'm gonna be looking into other stuff. Maybe Luxor. Luxor seems something that might be up my alley. The Nishane is, it's really good now. So after 2.5 hours or so, this has become basically like a skin scent. You really have to get close to smell it. It's still strange. It's very, very smooth, even smoother than before. So there's an amber component and some warmth. My skin feels warm to this. So it's the same kind of animalics that you would find in something like Chanel No. 5 or like Amouage Gold. It's a very slightly funkiness in the background that you don't really notice unless you're searching for it. It just gives this depth to this otherwise probably really boring amber note. So all that's left is this like really warm amber and this kind of a leathery note. Maybe the animalics are coming from the leathery note, but I do still think that there's something else in the background. The leather is a little rough, but it doesn't feel like wet. It doesn't feel like this dense, thick, rugged leather. It's like rough in a way that's like something like a very dry like leather jacket kind of vibe. It's along the lines of something like ombre leather. It's not super smooth. It's not suede or anything, but it's still not really, really rough. It's not like oily. It's not oily and it's not wet. The hay is gone. The wetness of this scent is gone completely. So the wetness from the manure, from the wet hay, from like the animal breath that I was getting, it's gone completely. And yeah, you're left with this really smooth amber with this like leather note. I think it's really, I don't think it's offensive at all at this stage. So I do think that right now, the Nishane is probably a little stronger than the Xerjoff. The Xerjoff is still more noticeable because of its piercing nature, But the Nishane, I think it's like, it stays longer, and I would expect it to last longer on my skin. Because the Xerjoff is basically kind of like the same thing, but with less sharpness. But it's still that balsamic nature. I do feel like this is a sort of a residue of something. I do think that the Xerjoff on if it lands on your clothes, it's forever, basically. So, I mean, this has been a really interesting experiment. These two scents have proven to be completely different. They both surprised me in very different ways. Spoiler, I will be purchasing a bottle of Nishane Afrika Olifant, and I will be wearing it in multiple situations to give you a review about it. Xerjoff Gao, on the other hand, is not for me. Not that I dislike it, I do appreciate it for what it is, and I do appreciate that Xerjoff brought out something like this. But to me it's redundant. I feel that I have a better version of this in Andy Towers Lud. Even the dry down is really, really weird. Maybe I need like a second opinion, maybe like a third party opinion. But what am I gonna do? I'm gonna wear this to the office? I'm not so sure. I don't know. Very, very challenging. I don't know. Again, I don't know when you would wear it. It might be a subjective reaction. Might be that someone might find this scent completely appealing and not smoky or balsamic, but hey, this is just my opinion. The Nishane, as per their fashion, this one can be considered somewhat of a party trick. I do think that the dry down of this is really good and really smooth, but at the same time, I don't think it's super unique. I mean, like if you take other leather fragrances or other oud fragrances or something like, there are a lot more fragrances that have a lot more interesting and complex dry down than this. So this one here has the opening, which is that party trick, that horse stable party trick. I do like it and I do appreciate the effort, so I will probably be buying one of this, as I said. Overall, hope you like this experiment. Please don't think that all I'm going to be covering again is animalics and oud. That's not the case. Next comparison will be definitely something fresher and more appealing. Sorry for the rambling and sorry for the length of the video, but in these first impressions, I think that we're gonna have a longer video format just because I need a lot of time to get my thoughts together. If you're still here, props to you. Thanks again for watching. Thanks again for all the appreciation. I love doing this stuff. Many more videos to come, many more first impressions to come. I have a huge list to go through. I bought a lot of samples, so a lot more content coming. Yeah, and another one down. Thanks again and cheers.